I should have known something was wrong when Ryan started flinching away from my touch. It was a subtle change, but one that I could not shake off. We'd been together for 7 years, and in all that time, he'd always been the affectionate type. He'd hold my hand in public, give me kisses on the cheek, and whisper sweet nothings in my ear. But over the past few months, he'd become distant. At first, I brushed it off as stress from work. He'd been traveling a lot, and I'd been deployed overseas, serving my country. We'd talk on the phone, and he'd tell me how much he loved me, but it was not the same as being there in person. When I finally returned home, I expected things to go back to normal, but they did not. He'd shower me with gifts, like always, after every suspicious incident. It was his way of pacifying me, of making me forget about the nagging feeling that something was off. But this time, the gifts felt empty. They felt like a band-aid on a bullet wound. My mother had warned me about him from day one. She'd say things like, "He's too perfect, Mija. No one is that perfect." But I did not listen. I was too caught up in the romance of it all. My father, on the other hand, had always been protective of me. He'd tell me to be careful, to trust my instincts. But even he did not see the signs. Looking back, I realized that there were red flags I ignored. He became emotionally distant after being so attentive. He stopped saying, "I love you" first. He was always extremely protective of his phone, and I would catch him deleting messages and texts. I wrote it off as him being private, but now I see it for what it was, a sign of guilt. It was not until I saw his Apple Watch notifications that my world came crashing down. I was lying in bed, scrolling through my phone, when I noticed his watch was buzzing. I glanced over, and my heart sank. There were messages from strangers, women who were sending him explicit photos and texts. I felt like I had been punched in the gut. My mind reeled as I scrolled through the messages. This had been going on for 5 years, ever since he started traveling for work regularly. 5 years of my life, and he'd been living a lie. I thought about all the times he'd told me he loved me, all the times he'd promised to be faithful. It was all a charade. But that was not the worst part. As I dug deeper, I discovered that he'd been siphoning money from our joint account to buy these women gifts and trips. He'd been using our money, the money we'd worked hard for, to fuel his addiction. And the house we'd been saving for? It was all his, a way to launder his guilt. I felt sick to my stomach. I could not breathe. I could not think. All I could do was feel the pain and the anger and the betrayal. I wanted to confront him, to scream at him, to make him understand the depth of his hurt. But I knew I needed to be calm, to gather my thoughts and my supporters. I called my mother and my father, and they came over immediately. My mother held me in her arms, whispering words of comfort, while my father paced back and forth, his face set in a determined expression. "We'll get through this, Mija," he said. "We'll make him pay." We decided to stage an intervention, to confront Ryan about his actions. I was scared, but I knew I had to do it. I had to stand up for myself, for my family, and for our home. As we waited for Ryan to arrive, I felt a sense of trepidation. What would he say? Would he try to gaslight me, to make me believe that I was the one who was crazy? The doorbell rang, and my heart skipped a beat. I took a deep breath, and we all sat down in the living room. Ryan walked in, a smug look on his face, and that's when I saw it. The guilt written all over his features. "Ryan, we need to talk," my father said, his voice firm. "What's going on?" Ryan asked, his eyes darting back and forth. "You know exactly what's going on," I said, my voice shaking. "I saw the messages on your Apple Watch. I know about the explicit photos and the money you've been siphoning. I know about the lies and the deceit." Ryan's face went white, and for a moment he was speechless. Then he tried to spin it, to make me believe that I was the one who was paranoid. "You're just being crazy, baby. You're overacting." I was not having it. I stood up, my heart pounding in my chest. "You're the one who's been crazy, Ryan. You're the one who's been living a lie, and I am done." The room fell silent, and for a moment, all I could hear was my own heartbeat. Then, my mother spoke up. "You need to leave, Ryan. You need to leave our lives for good." As Ryan slunk away, defeated, I felt a sense of empowerment wash over me. I was done with the pain, done with the betrayal. I was ready to move on, to rebuild my life and my family. And as I looked at my parents, I knew I was not alone. I had them, and together, we would get through this. But, as I turned to walk away, I caught a glimpse of Ryan's face. He looked sad. And for a moment, I felt a pang of sadness too. I had loved him once. I had loved him with all my heart. But that was over now. I was done. I took a deep breath, and I walked away. I walked away from the pain, from the betrayal, and from the lies. I walked towards a new chapter, one where I would be strong, where I would be free. And as I looked back, I knew that I would never go back to that toxic relationship again. I was done, and I was finally free.